Hello. It's time for another studio update. Hello. It's time for another studio update. It's Monday after all. Um, so yeah. Uh, Not much has changed. I've had some interruptions the past week. I'm gonna have another one or two here coming up soon. Um, Last week was the old man starting the bathroom renovation that he'd been meaning to do for like 5 years now. So that's why there's like toilet paper and shampoo on the shelf behind me. Um, in case you were wondering. On top of that, I'm supposed to go out with my stepmother and help her get some shots. I bought this really cheap drone for like $100 last year when I still had money coming in, and we're going to take it out to some property her brother owns, like up in the mountains of Arkansas, and basically get some aerial shots for her. Um, I don't know if that's actually going to happen because this drone is so cheap that anything higher than like a 1 mile per hour gust of wind is going to send it all over the place. So we'll see. Um, but other than that, not much has gone on the past week. This week I do have plans to get more work done on Battle Space. I got a little bit done last week. But over the weekend, we entered the month of February, and January was me basically taking a lot of time off to kind of recharge my batteries and apply for some jobs and work on some projects that I'd been wanting to at least get a kickstart on. Um, I also took time. I also took time to sit down, like, just run the numbers on what it's going to take to get the next project going. Unfortunately, the past 6 months have been very, very difficult in terms of pinning down work. For most of the time that I worked on Frontiers Reach, I had paying work coming through the door, and I didn't have to rely on external funding at all. Um, as in by external funding, I mean like crowdfunding or investment. So I basically was able to pay for everything between my veterans disability benefits, because I am a disabled veteran, and the uh, money that I pulled in through my day job, or whatever day job I was working at that time. However, over the past 6 months, I've probably put out, or I've probably put in about 300 different applications, probably closer to 400 by now, and still nothing. I've only had 2 interviews the past 6 months, which is frustrating. And the last job I had that I was getting paid for, I basically quit because after I got a bunch of work done, the lead programmer went on break for 2 weeks and came back and was just like openly hostile towards me, um, and started basically telling me to turn all of my files in and accusing me of refusing to turn files in. So I turned all 30 gigabytes of my files in by uploading it all to their GitHub, and I quit. Um, I got the impression they weren't really interested in keeping me around, anyways. Um, he was not a very good communicator. Simply asking him questions did not go well at all. I couldn't even get basic information out of him some days. He just didn't want to answer questions. You know, he's supposed to be the lead programmer, and he was anything but a leader. Um, so I had to quit that job because I felt like I was genuinely getting into the woods with some legal issues that I could not afford to take on. Um, so, like I said, I just turned in all my files and I quit. Um, but in a weird stroke of luck, um, I made so little money last year that I might actually get more money from the government this year for being below the poverty wage. That's crazy to me, but that's the reality that I am in right now. Because of the trouble that I've had finding paying work to help fund these projects, I am considering going in full time to development and content creation. Uh, I'm not a particularly social person. I'm not a person who likes being on camera. I don't like being the center of attention. Um, I would much rather be in the back doing artwork and coding and giving people something that they can play and enjoy and have fun with. But if I'm going to go into doing this full time, I'm going to have to basically, and I freaking hate this, I'm I'm going to have to go into basically asking for money to support content creation, which, I mean, you know, at a certain point, you kind of have to earn your way into that, right? There's like dues, there's like some sort of like social due that you have to pay to kind of like earn your way into being a content creator. One, you have to make good content. Um, Two, you kind of have to have a community to begin with. I have no community, and I don't really make great content for YouTube. Um, Really frustrating, because I would have thought by now that I would have found a job, but in the past 6 to 7 months, I've only had 2 interviews and didn't get either one of those jobs. So I'm at the point now where I don't really have a whole lot of options. And content creation, I got 4.5 years of uploads, uh, technically more, onto YouTube with the Blind Alien Productions account, and I have a game out on Steam, technically 2 games if you want to count my old 109 project, and have a third game currently in development that I'm getting ready to put up onto Steam probably in the next month or two, and the publisher will be putting behind an initiative behind on that one. But uh, none of these things have made money, and like I said before, the past 6 months that was fine because I was able to basically piggyback off of all of that work to go paying jobs. Um, but for whatever reason, I can't even get a job at a department store or a fast food restaurant. Not where I live now. For those of you who don't know, I haven't been very transparent about this, but I live in the second. My entire life right now is packed up into the second-story spare bedroom of my elderly parents' house. They don't like to think of themselves as elderly, but the reality of the matter is that they're in their late 60s, going into their 70s, and it's starting to show. It's starting to show in ways that I don't think any one of them were hoping that it would show at this point. My father, especially, is one of these people. And he and I don't agree on a lot of things. We don't agree on politics and certain ethical issues, but these are the people I have. They've never told me to They've never turned me away from their door when I needed help, even when we disagreed. And I've never told them no when they needed help. So at this point, I'm probably going to have to ask them to basically just, be patient and ask what community I have, and to, offer up what support they can. Um, you know, it might not seem like much, but I have my Ko-fi where I have a $1 a month donation. Um, to give you some reference, the average the average person here in the United States, they probably make about $2,500 to $3,000 a month, which is about a 40,000 a year job. That's a little on the higher end. Lower end would be 25,000. Um, my disability benefits bring in about 16,000 a year. I make $1,100 a month in disability benefits. And because I'm a disabled veteran, I also don't have to pay for health care. So my health care is basically paid for. And we've had some great changes in the VA healthcare system past few years that have made it less of a nightmare to deal with. Um, but if I'm going to put aside searching for jobs and focus full time on content creation and game development, um, I'm going to need more support than what I get through my game development efforts and my parents. My parents just don't have the type of money required to support me throughout this, unless it's giving me a room to sleep in and food to eat, and internet connection. That's about it. They're not going to be able to pay for anything. They don't even technically own the house that they live in, nor do they own the cars that they drive. So, or the trucks that they drive, because we live literally an hour away from everything out in the woods. Um, so yeah. Um, and when they sell this house, they're basically selling it so that they can pay out the lease to go buy another house that they won't own. Um, Stereotypical American story, basically. Um, Stupid amounts of debt and very little financial freedom, I guess is the best way to put it. That's just how most of us live out here in, you know, the middle of the heartland, or what they call the heartland. So I'm genuinely thinking I'm gonna dive into full-time content creation, game dev. I've just been putting off asking my parents because to support me in this effort, because one, I don't want to take advantage of them, and two, they're older people. They don't have a whole lot of resources left, and they're also the type of people who, they they're very prideful about the making it on your own sort of thing, despite the fact that nobody really does that or has ever done that. Um, that's still kind of the goal that everybody shoots for. Um, and understandably, everybody is feeling the economic squeeze right now. Um, so that's another reason why I say, $1 a month for donating on the Ko-fi is all I'm asking for. Um, and part of that's because, if 200 people gave, um, let's say for a moment that like 200 people donated $1 a month to the Ko-fi. I'm just going to use this as an example. Um, I want to say Ko-fi is going to take a cut, and then of course I've got to pay taxes on that. So probably looking at $125 a month through donations to help develop further titles and create content for people. Um, Assuming that happens, which I'm not very optimistic about, to be honest. Assuming that could actually happen, $125 extra dollars a month extra would be enough for me to put the concept artist to work. So I could pay him $120, 20 pay him basically pay him all of that money that I get in, and have him doing concept artwork, and then I could be doing the 3D models. And then when most of that work is done, I can then switch over to paying for voice actors with that kind of money every month. Like, I know this is probably going to sound crazy because most people are used to like being told, "Oh, well, we need 11 million, 12 million, 20 million dollars to make this game, and we need your help because we can't do it without you." I know most people are used to hearing that, but the reality of the matter is, game development doesn't have to be like that. Uh, if a million people, like let's say if I had $12 million, I'm not even entirely sure I would know what to do with that kind of money, because that's more money than what my entire production studio costs over a course of 10 years. Um, 4.5 years to make Frontiers Reach. I had to do 8,000 hours of that work. If I paid myself $100 an hour for that kind of work, it would still be less than $1 million. So 4.5 years, $1 million for Frontiers Reach, less than $1 million to build Frontiers Reach, and most of that work was basically me doing it for free. Um, so yeah, uh, it just like I don't understand how else to explain this. Like, game development doesn't have to be that expensive. Most of that money that you guys are paying for when you buy a game is going to pay CEOs and COOs and CXOs and all of these people who make stupid amounts of money at the expense of the quality of the game, and at the expense of basically you as a player. Because what are you actually getting out of this? Does it if it doesn't if it doesn't enrich your day for 30 minutes to an hour every day at minimum, what are you actually getting out of it? I've made mention before that one of the reasons why I charge $20 for Frontiers Reach is because I want people to really think about what they're purchasing. I To this day, my entire life, and to this day, I have been the type of person who just refuses to spend $5 even on a cheap game, because I'm going to nitpick it every step of the way to ensure it's something I genuinely want to purchase. And, I fully support people not buying Frontiers Reach if they think it's something they're not going to enjoy. I know my publisher is going to freak the fuck out when they hear that, but, I have my standards. Uh, and, if I make less money because of my standards, I can live with that. Um, there are people out there who, they make stupid amounts of money because they're not afraid to charge you, $5 and then basically refuse to refund you because they've made 500, or because they made $5 million, and if they refund you, they have to refund everybody or refund too many people for them to make a profit. I would rather be a little bit more honest with how I do business, um, partly because I've been burned myself as a gamer and as a developer too. So I've been burned by people who gave me a low quality product and you know didn't respect the fact that just because I'm an American doesn't mean I have infinite access to wealth. Um, it's just I can't tell you how many times I've come across that mentality where someone assumes that because I'm an American I just have infinite access to wealth, or I have access to a lot more wealth than I'm letting on. Uh, if I told you some of the wild stories of how my family members lived in this country for almost 400 years, you wouldn't believe me, because I barely believed some of the stories, and I had to go back and looking through ancestry documentation to get confirmation on it. Uh, it's just wild. Like, I have ancestors for whom there is no documentation because they were here long before the United States was even founded, which is wild. Because most of the people I grew up around, they know exactly when grand their grandfather brought the family over from Italy or something like that. So, yeah, uh, I am a broke ass game dev, and I live with my parents partly because it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I help them, they help me, and yeah. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Uh, I'm gonna put links in the description if you're interested in helping out. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do what I can on my end, and we'll see how this goes. Here we go, 2025.